Hey everybody, welcome to another comic book review. In this video I'll be talking about Batman: A Death in the Family. Now, this particular volume contains not only the story A Death in the Family, but also its follow-up, A Lonely Place of Dying. So A Death in the Family is primarily written by Jim Starlin and with art by Jim Aparo. Now, A Lonely Place of Dying is Marv Wolfman and George Perez. So it starts off A Death in the Family. Jason Todd is Robin at this point in time. And he's kind of lashing out, and he discovers information about his mother, and he realizes that he never knew his real mother, and that the person who he originally thought was his mother was not. So he goes through, using Batman's computer, he goes through a list of possible suspects who could be his mother, and he finds these three people. And so he impulsively decides to take a journey to a completely different country in order to find who his mother might be. And Batman is also there with Jason Todd, but for different reasons, because the Joker is in possession of a missile and he plans to sell it to a terrorist group, and Batman is there to stop that. But at the same time, Robin is also looking for the person who may or may not be his mother. So what makes this story so groundbreaking is the fact that it was the story where readers had the option to decide whether Robin lived or died. There is a very famous sequence in this particular story where Robin is left for dead by the Joker, and he's like beaten with a crowbar and left in a building that blows up, and Batman arrives, and then readers were treated to this advertisement, which basically said, here's two numbers to call. One means that Robin will live. The other means that Robin will die. And what ended up happening was readers decided that Robin should die. And so it was kind of like a groundbreaking concept, having your audience vote on the fate of a character. And it's a cool concept, and it sparked a lot of controversy at the time and even still today. But that's what this story is mostly known for. Now, aside from that, I'm not a huge fan of this story, to be honest. I think it's a little too cartoony, a little too cheesy. I loved Jim Starlin's work on Batman the Cult, but his writing here just is not the same. I don't like it as much. I think the dialogue is very forced and cheesy and unnatural, even by like 80s and 90s comic book standards. It's still a little too cheesy for my liking. The art style is cool, but I feel like it's almost a little too colorful for Batman. I don't know. That's just my opinion, though. I know that this is kind of a beloved story among a lot of comic fans, but it's one that doesn't really mean a whole lot for me specifically. Like, I don't like this half as much as The Cult or like The Long Halloween or any of those. But I do think it's cool that, this is a story that's famous because it left the fate of a character in the reader's hands. Aside from that, I don't love this one. Now, the follow-up story, A Lonely Place of Dying, was actually a crossover between Batman and the New Teen Titans. And so it's basically Marv Wolfman and George Perez who came up with the New Titans. They were kind of pioneers of that series. And this is post Dick Grayson. So Dick Grayson has moved on from being Robin. He's now with the Titans, and he's Nightwing. So Batman is, since the death of Jason Todd, kind of acting irrationally. And this is the story that introduces Tim Drake as well. So Tim Drake would later go on to be the new Robin after Jason Todd, but he meets up with Dick Grayson and tells him that Batman is acting strangely and he's putting himself in danger and like more than he normally does, and he's acting very impulsively. And Tim is trying to get Dick Grayson to go back to being Robin because his way of thinking is, what is Batman without a Robin? So Dick Grayson reluctantly agrees, and there's a whole plot that Two-Face has that Batman and Dick Grayson are trying to stop Two-Face. But then Tim Drake has to become involved whenever something happens that could mean Two-Face coming away victorious. This story I liked a little better. I think A Lonely Place of Dying is not perfect, but I enjoyed it a little more than A Death in the Family. I think what's cool about this one is kind of exploring like Batman and Robin's relationship. Like, how does Batman function without Robin? And he has in the past, and I will be the first to admit, like, I'm not as big of a Robin fan as I am a Batman fan. A lot of my favorite Batman stories exist without Robin. But I do recognize that Robin is like a very significant character for Batman. And so this story kind of examines like what one means to the other. And it's interesting. It's done in a cool way. Now, I like the art on this one a little better than Death in the Family, but it's also like not 100% up my alley either. I think a lot of the colors are just a little too bright for my liking, but really at the end of the day, it all just comes down to personal preference. I think this is a better crafted story than Death in the Family is, but at the end of the day, it all just comes down to personal preference. Would I recommend this particular volume? Yeah, I mean, if you want to see, kind of a historic storyline in the Batman mythos, I would recommend checking this out. But it's, as far as Jim Starlin Batman goes, it's nowhere near as good in terms of quality as The Cult was. I think that's a far superior story. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman: A Death in the Family, and also its follow-up included in this, A Lonely Place of Dying. Thank you as always for watching, and look forward to more videos in the future. Have a great day.